Black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Bill Maher is out here once again, dismantling woke takes like it's his personal mission. And this time, his sights are locked on none other than Whoopi Goldberg. Let's be real. She practically handed him the ammo with her ever-growing collection of cringeworthy statements since 2022. But Maher didn't just call her out. He ripped through her argument like a wrecking ball, leaving Whoopi scrambling for a response like a cartoon character dodging falling pianos. So, what did she say this time that triggered Maher's unfiltered takedown? And how did his response leave the woke crowd absolutely shaken? Oh, don't worry. We've got all the scorching hot details right here. Buckle up because this isn't just a rough ride. It's a full-blown roller coaster with no brakes. Whoopi poked the bear and now she's facing the claws of harsh reality. Ouch. And if you thought the View panel was ready to take the loss and move on, think again. Remember our last breakdown when Maher exposed Sunny Hostin for twisting his words? Well, it seems they're back for more.
We have got to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing.
This time, Whoopi Goldberg is stepping up, apparently on a mission for revenge, ready to deliver her pound of flesh. Looks like Sunny couldn't handle the heat Maher brought, so she called in reinforcements. And enter Whoopi Goldberg, storming, in like a reality show contestant nobody asked for, ready to throw down. Classic Whoopi, flipping through the woke playbook like it's a sacred text. When the argument starts sinking faster than the Titanic, just build a straw man and start swinging. Maher was making a straightforward point. Black Americans want better jobs, a stronger economy, and responsible policing. Pretty simple, right? But here comes Whoopi, going off on a tangent about voting for a former prosecutor with some vague working-class plan. Make it make sense. Does that connect? Not even close. The logic? Non-existent. It's like she's throwing darts blindfolded, praying something sticks. But spoiler alert, it doesn't. And Maher? Oh, he wasn't about to let that slide. He tore through the nonsense, pointing out how Whoopi's argument barely holds water. Just another day on The View, where discussions derail faster than a runaway train, painful to watch yet somehow impossible to look away from. The View has always been a breeding ground for controversial and, let's be real, downright questionable takes. But Sunny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg just cranked the chaos dial up to max with their latest round of outrageous commentary. Remember when Charlemagne the God braved the set as a guest? You could see the realization hit, like he'd accidentally wandered into an alternate dimension where logic takes a backseat to theatrics. And speaking of bending reality, let's talk about President Joe Biden, the self-proclaimed champion of no one being above the law. Well, that aged like milk because guess who just got a presidential pardon? Yep, his own son, Hunter Biden, after being found guilty of corruption and other conveniently overlooked offenses. Poof, he's off the hook. So much for family values. Huh? The backlash is hitting like a tidal wave, and for good reason. How do you preach about justice when your son gets a golden ticket out of accountability? It's almost like saying justice is blind, unless your last name is Biden. Hunter's guilt was about as subtle as a toddler caught red-handed in the cookie jar. But somehow, responsibility just didn't make it onto the Biden family to-do list.
Tear down statues of Lincoln and get rid of the police. Just, no, it's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
And that was exactly Charlemagne's point. If the woke crowd insists that no one is above the law, then maybe they should actually follow their own standards. Sounds simple, right? Well, not if you ask Whoopi Goldberg. And just like that, we get another eye-roll-worthy gem from the Queen of Cringe herself. This time, Whoopi actually had the nerve to claim that President Biden didn't lie when he said no one was above the law. Seriously, Whoopi? Because there's a mountain of evidence, video, audio, and probably even ancient cave paintings, proving he said exactly that. Watching Whoopi try to spin this is like watching someone argue the sky isn't blue while standing under a cloudless sky. The mental gymnastics? Olympic level. But even then, she'd probably trip over her own logic. And judging by Charlemagne's face, even he couldn't believe what he was hearing. But wait, it gets even better. Whoopi went on to suggest that maybe Biden changed his mind because he was just tired of people walking all over him. Yeah, that's the defense. Not corruption, not favoritism, just presidential fatigue. Make it make sense. The problem with the woke crowd? They only call out wrongdoing when the guilty party isn't part of their exclusive little club. But the moment one of their own gets caught, the outrage magically transforms into weak excuses, whispered defenses, or straight-up selective amnesia, and... Of course, Whoopi and her crew got away with their usual antics because Charlemagne was on the show. But the moment Bill Maher caught wind of their nonsense, he practically said, "Hold my beer," and then delivered one of the most brutal verbal smackdowns we've heard in a while. Maher couldn't have put it better, the so-called truth-tellers. And moral gatekeepers love to parade around as the champions of justice until the hypocrisy is put on full display for everyone to see. Hunter Biden, guilty, no debate, no gray area. But because Daddy Biden happens to sit in the Oval Office, he gets to walk away scot-free. No consequences. Not even a slap on the wrist. If this were anyone else, the mob would be out for blood, demanding justice on a silver platter. But when it's one of their own, suddenly justice takes a backseat to favoritism. It's hypocrisy, at its peak, and Maher was spot on calling it out for the sham that it is. The real question is, how much longer will Americans tolerate this two-faced circus? This isn't just about Hunter Biden. It's about a system that bends over backward to protect the powerful while slamming the door on everyone else. Maher's takedown wasn't just well-timed. It was a wake-up call for anyone still clinging to the illusion that fairness exists. And here's where things get even spicier. Maher pointed out that the woke mob doesn't operate alone. They've got backup from the mainstream media, running interference whenever their narratives start, falling apart. No surprises there. The media worked overtime to downplay the Hunter Biden scandal, twisting themselves into knots to shield President Biden while actively sabotaging Trump's re-election bid. Major outlets dismissed the whole thing as Russian. Disinformation, even with mounting evidence, all while censoring anyone who dared to question it. And guess who jumped right on board? Whoopi Goldberg. She scoffed at the legitimacy of the allegations on The View, happily towing the party line. But Maher? He wasn't having any of it. He ripped apart her excuses, exposing just how deep the hypocrisy runs. At this point, the ladies of The View aren't just woke. They're like a pack of rabid sharks circling their prey, ready to tear apart anyone who doesn't fall in line. Their version of debate? It's not about discussion or truth. It's about silencing opposition with snark and a whole lot of double standards. Whoopi, in particular, has mastered the art of dismissing opposing voices with just a flick of her hand, as if any opinion that doesn't align with hers isn't even worth acknowledging. But Maher? He wasn't about to let that slide. He called it exactly what it is: bullying disguised as activism. And that's precisely why he's become such a thorn in their side, constantly pulling back the curtain on their hypocrisy for everyone to see. In a world drowning in one-sided narratives, Maher's takedowns feel like a breath of fresh air in a room filled with recycled talking points. Maher argues that it's time for the woke mob to stop clutching their pearls over Trump's victory and start facing reality. He didn't steal it. He didn't cheat for it. And he didn't conjure it out of thin air. He won because millions of Americans backed what he was selling, whether the progressive left liked it or not. Instead of blaming Russia, racism, or whatever is trending on Twitter this week, maybe it's time to accept a simple truth. Democracy means sometimes the other side wins. It's not a glitch. It's the system working exactly as intended. And the sooner they stop playing the victim and start playing strategists, the better shot they'll have in 2028, or even 2032. Bill Maher hits the nail again. Not everyone who voted for Trump is out there waving MAGA flags in their backyard or bowing to golden statues. A huge chunk of voters held their noses and cast their ballots, not because they were obsessed with Trump, but because they were exhausted by the Democrats' holier-than-thou lectures and the woke mob's increasingly out-of-touch agenda. Let's be real. When you're out here cheering for biological men to dominate women's sports or holding rallies that look a little too sympathetic to extremist groups, don't be shocked when voters start walking away. People didn't vote for Trump because they loved his tweets or his tanning bed glow. They voted for him because the alternative felt like sitting through a never-ending lecture from a self-righteous vegan at a BBQ. If the left wants to win, maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop alienating the middle with every fringe idea from the activist playbook and start focusing on what makes sense to everyday Americans. Yep, this was comedy gold. Bill Maher didn't just hammer the final nail into Whoopi Goldberg's argument. He practically built the whole coffin while laughing at the sheer absurdity of it all. Whoopi, the self-proclaimed high priestess of the woke mob, thought she could take a swing at Maher for daring to think independently. Big mistake, Maher's response? Classic Bill. Sharp, unapologetic, ruthless. He called out the hilarious irony of a co-host of The View, a show that claims to be all about diverse opinions, attacking him for having one she didn't like. A little rich, the same people who scream tolerance at every turn seem to believe it only applies to their opinions. But Maher wasn't about to let that hypocrisy slide. He exposed the woke echo chamber that Whoopi and her crew live in, where tribal loyalty trumps critical thinking, and any form of dissent is treated like outright heresy. Watching Maher dismantle the flimsy arguments was like watching Picasso paint, except his brushstrokes were sarcasm and logic. And with that, we're wrapping up today's episode. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more hard-hitting takedowns just like this. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.